say
Well,
a moderate number, but
maybe
not
I'm wrong.
most.
More than is comfortable,
A
maybe.
lot of the good ones.
Okay.
More than is
Right.
comfortable for a system.
Okay.
Well, and even those, like the Mario Advance series, kind of like, moved it up to the next level. But I was just wondering, like, what were some of the truly original games for the GBA that really stand out in your guys' minds?
Well, we already talked about WarioWare and Rhythm Heaven.
Yeah, WarioWare was pretty tremendous.
I do want to just, it'd be a crime not to mention WarioWare Twisted on the podcast, which is
Also beautiful.
possibly my favorite Game Boy.
Did you
Advance
play that
game.
on a GBA player?
No, I didn't.
Oh,
I
yeah.
had an SP at the time. I should have tried, though. I never got around to it.
Oh, speaking of GBA player, I've got to put a shout in here for Boktai, which is best played on a GBA player with a black light, shining right over the solar sensor, because the solar sensor is sensitive to black light. So instead of having to go
my
outside
God.
and deal with sunshine
I bought
it's fantastic.
Boktai and I took it outside
Boktai is such
and
a great
I sat
game.
out by the river and I tried to play it, and no man, it was so horrible. It was so terrible. I mean, just the experience of having to sit in the sun with a system that when you shone sunlight on it you couldn't see
What?
shit.
No, the original GBA was designed with a reflective TFT, so that when you played the game Boktai, like the solar sensor was really designed around the fact that if you wanted to play a game on GBA, you needed to be in sunlight. So they were like, let's force people to go outside and be in the sunlight.
Right.
And then the
that's
GBA
terrible.
SP came out, and it was like an anathema to sunlight. So yeah, it was bad timing. But the spirit behind Boktai was really good. But the game itself is just fantastic. I love Boktai so much.
The first one, the second one, or the third one?
First one.
To add a little
Third
bit
one's
of,
also really good. Second one's a little.
To add a little bit of color to your question, caller, or your observation about all the ports, at that point, the DS actually did a whole lot to change the way that people designed portable games, because the Game Boy Advance, when it came out, it was pretty much assumed that portable systems were going to get as many ports and downgrades of old console games
look at
as
Game
possible.
Gear.
Right.
Game Gear was nothing
Look at-
but Master
look at
System downgrades.
Everything prior to that point, Game Gear, Turbo Express was just TurboGrafx, but the Game Boy,
The Game Boy,
Right.
yeah.
There were very few original GB games, actually, when you think about
was-
that are really meaningful. Like,
It was pretty much
Maybe-
assumed that your portable game system was going to play anything that they could port over from old systems and sort of downgraded versions of those existing games. And Game Boy Advance never really truly broke out of that mold. It was DS that did. And so we're actually very spoiled now. We expect portable games to be designed for the portable system, but at the time it was still the ghetto, right? As Sony famously dubbed it.
Yeah, 10 years ago,
Yeah.
portable gaming was still very much kind of this sort of sad little
Porting
frontier.
down.
And that's why when I look back at Castlevania Circle of the Moon, even though it's such a mess of a game, like I can't be too harsh on it, because at the time it was pretty unsurpassed.
I managed to be harsh on it at the time.
Okay, well, you're just a jerk.
Yeah, well, you knew that.
Actually, that brings to mind too. Just really quick, I'm going to make this point. That's among other reasons why the Atari Lynx didn't do well, because it didn't have anything to go down to.
Oh, you mean there was nothing to source material
it
to
had
draw from?
clacks, and
Well,
we
food
played
is
it in the
pretty fun,
90s,
but-
and that was time for
Yeah, it was the time.
There was a lot of time.
There was time for clack.
because there was no internet.
I think all of us in this room will also recommend Ninja 5.0 as
Yes.
Oh,
game
yeah.
that's only
That wasn't
Game
a
Boy.
super original game. It was good because it was so derivative
Yeah.
of Rolling Thunder and Shinobi, but whatever.
I wish I'd brought my giant little. I have just like a plastic. That's the other thing that's fun about the GBA. It's like Matchbox cars. I have like a plastic bin full of all my GBA games and just look at them.
I used to keep them that way, but now I actually have them in their boxes on a shelf.
I love the Fire Emblem
they're very
games.
nice
The Fire
that way.
Emblem games were, they were in a lineage that was extant, and they weren't really original from that perspective. They were not ports, but we'd never got Fire Emblem in America before, so they were quite fresh and exciting. I'm a big fan of the Fire Emblem games.
And as Frank Cifaldi will, of course, agree with me, Game Boy Advance games are getting to be worth some money now if you've got them in the original box.
Yep.
That's true. Super Mario Advance 3, the Super Mario Brothers 3, whatever
Yeah.
Advance that was, that's already worth quite a bit. That goes for a lot already.
No kidding.
I've noticed anyway. Like
Yeah,
50 bucks.
I remember trying to
Yeah.
get that for my DS and being like, wow, I'm not paying that for Mario 3. I
Wow.
don't know what it was. But
No. I have Super Mario Brothers 3 on my NES. What do I need to get out of my GBA for? But maybe I'm totally wrong.
Well, if you have the
especially because I have an e-reader.
yeah,
and
if you
I
have
can
the
get those
e-reader and you
cards.
have those cards, then you can
Yeah.
expand Mario 3 to play levels you had never played before. And even though they
Right.
weren't really necessarily great levels, like, oh, I can play Super Mario Brothers 1-1, but with Mario 3 graphics. That's amazing. but actually that's not true. There were some levels that they designed specifically to take advantage of the frog suit or the hammer suit and things like that. Like, you know, these elements that
Right.
were really underutilized or maybe not underutilized, but were precious and scarce in the original game. Got to expand on a little bit and explore a little bit with the e-reader games. And that was one of those weird Nintendo technology initiatives that never really went anywhere, but the few things they did with it were actually pretty cool.
Even at the time, to have Mario 3 in the palm of your hand was pretty damn cool.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. Well,
Thanks a
I think
lot.
we're going to wrap this up, but thanks for calling. It's been a pleasure
right, yeah.
chatting with you.
Well, thank you. Have a good one, guys.
You too. I do want to bring up one final sort of, for me, important memory of the GBA.
Go on.
Which is that is the first console that I ever had like homebrew and emulation on. My first sort of flashcard experience was on the GBA. And I remember playing like AGI games. I played like the first Leisure Suit Larry on an AGI interpreter.
Oh, yeah.
That
Huh.
that
I
Brian
remember